JJ the CPA here, hope you're doing well. So this video is for business owners, future business owners, and any size, whether you're just starting out or whether you've been doing this for 20, 30, 40, 50 years, whether you got 0 employees other than you, yourself, whether you got 25 employees, 5,000 employees. This video's for you. And the biggest mistake that I see with business owners, and I'm going to tell you this right now, most business owners that I've worked with make this mistake. And those business owners that don't want to listen to me and they want to continue to make this mistake, guess what? You're right. They're no longer a client of mine. So if you have been watching my channel for a long time, you're very familiar with who I am. Quickly, I'm a CPA, been practicing for 28 years. I've worked with thousands and thousands of businesses. I've got a practice that I own, and most of the clients I'm dealing with now, I've been now working with them for 15 to 20 years. I've had the good fortune of taking my practice from me working out of a second bedroom to 13 people to back down to where I'm just the happiest I've ever been with the size of the practice I have, which is it's me and I got 3 others, and I've reduced down my client list to a level that is only those that I've been working with, as I indicated, for the last 15 or 20 years. And all of the clients I'm working with, they don't make this mistake. Now, they may have made this mistake, and I may have had to work on them, or they set out not knowing that they were planning on making this mistake, but before they made it, I didn't let them. So what's this mistake? Well, the mistake is thinking that someone else should know your numbers better than you. The mistake is that owners, big or small, think they should be able to hire somebody to know their numbers better than them. Now, there's a couple of reasons why. One, many think it's big time. Like they think, well, I must be a big time owner to hire somebody to worry about the numbers. And many small business owners also think that somebody's going to know the numbers better than them because they have a background in numbers. So they think they should bring somebody on, such as myself or a bookkeeper, and they start relying or hoping they can rely on or falsely rely on that person knowing their numbers better than them. And knowing the numbers is not the person that's writing the check or looking at the bank balance or putting together the financials or doing the tax return. Just because I'm a CPA, there's no way that I will ever know my clients' numbers better than them. Not just because I won't let them get in that set of circumstances, but it's because my clients aren't under the impression that that makes them big time, because I've made sure they know that that does not make you big time. I've also made sure they were aware that anybody you hire most likely won't be there one day when you look up. Employees, as good as they are and as wonderful as they are, things change in their life. You could pay them all the money in the world. You can make them an owner in the business. That doesn't mean that they're going to be able to know the numbers of your business better than you. How do you know your numbers? Take a deep breath, because you know your numbers. You have to just take away this false, invisible shell that blocks your eyes, and remove them because they're right there. You know, it's funny how when I'm visiting with clients and see, this is one of those videos where I'm going to talk, and you know, for those of you that maybe you're sitting here and you're enjoying something in the evening, cheers to you. When I'm going through the numbers with my client, I always remind them, these are your numbers, okay? So I wrote a book. I've always got a link in the body of every video that says, find me everywhere and find my book, blah, blah, blah. You can click on it. You should check it out. It's on Amazon. But the book that I wrote back in 2019, I talk a lot about how you understand your numbers very easily. And see, the bank's going to expect you to know the numbers. And believe it or not, your accountant, your CPA, your tax professional, your EA, they're expecting you to know your numbers better than them. How is it that because I'm a CPA, I would know your numbers better than you unless I'm in your business every day, not only writing checks, but talking with customers and seeing what invoices went out and what the receivables are and the payables? I mean, unless I'm in your shoes, unless I'm in the shoes of everybody in your accounting department, how is it that your external or internal bookkeeper, accountant, controller, CFO, CPA, EA, tax professional, how is it that they're going to know the numbers better than you? And guess what? You need to know the numbers better than them so that you can know that they're dealing with numbers that are correct. You know, numbers are simple. You know, how much money came in and how much money went out. You know, I do a 12-week seminar with a small group of small business owners. And actually, I wrapped it up at the beginning of the year, and I haven't started my next 12-week group, haven't announced it. But we go through each week and we really break down the numbers. But what I really start with is knowing your numbers is as simple as looking at a bank statement and going, how much money came in last month and how much money went out last month. Right there. You know, $10,000 came in last month and $8,500 came out or went out. So there's your starting point. You need to know that. But what you need to know is, well, where'd that 10 grand come from? And it's not just, oh, well, I'll go ask Max or I'll ask Lisa and they'll tell me. Yeah, maybe you have someone that's going to be able to pull up the details, right? But what kind of client did that come from? Was it one client? Was it 10 clients? What products were sold or what services were sold? Were services sold but not collected on? And so was the money that came in, was it from services or products sold a month ago, 2 months ago? See, somebody on the outside looking in, such as myself, how would I know that? I'm not going to know by looking at your financials or your general ledger, and quite frankly, even looking at your bank statement and looking at every single transaction. I wouldn't know when you actually should have received that money or if you did the service that day and collected that day. You need to know these things. You need to know those relationships to when it's sold to when it's collected. Yes, you might have someone that helps you know that, but that is a key thing for you to know as a business owner. That'd probably be the biggest thing for you to know as a business owner. From when we sell something, what is the time period from when we collect it? And obviously the goal is to shorten that. The second is from the time that we collected the money, how quickly is it that we had to pay it out to somebody to generate that sale? What does that mean? Well, you got to pay somebody labor. You might have to buy product to resell. You have to pay rent and utilities, right? There's all these expenses that are going out the door. So when you're looking at a bank statement and the money that's going out the door, Well, what was expended to bring in the money that was brought in? Because in most businesses, most of the time, the money you're spending today is generating dollars you're collecting later. And so there's usually not a complete matchup to expenses to income. It's not an argument of using accrual. Okay, this isn't to get into a discussion of accrual and cash, but I do talk about it in my book. It's $19.97, $19.97. But in that book, I go through the top 60 questions. A third of it is talking about your numbers, because if you don't know your numbers, you don't know your business. And I'm just going to be plain with you, okay? You're lazy if you don't know your numbers. And I'm going to really push up on you and tell you that you're dumb as a business owner. So I'm not necessarily saying you, but you're dumb as a business owner if you think you're big time because you got somebody that knows your numbers. You know, I was just visiting with somebody last week, and I've got, I'm not bringing on new clients, but I was talking with somebody that was wanting me to come in and consult with them on a certain particular transaction and about the tax aspect of it and how the facts and circumstances can play out to achieve the most favorable tax result, if you will. But when I was talking to the individual, I said, well, why aren't you talking with your current CPA? Because we're talking about a multi-million-dollar transaction here. And just your part is multi-million dollars. And in essence, what was said was that, well, I was expecting him to know the numbers. And so when we started doing this deal, I got frustrated and irritated that they didn't know the numbers. I said, okay, well, what do they do for you? Do they work internally for you? What do you mean? Do they work directly for you? They show up every day of the week and run your numbers and write your checks? I mean, is it an internal, someone that you pay a W-2? No. Is this somebody that does your bookkeeping? No. Well, how often do they see your numbers? They're like, well, I mean, they see them and they do my tax return. Like, well, do they do any tax estimates? Well, I mean, I'm assuming they have access to everything. Well, what do they have access to? Well, the financials and the numbers. And I said, well, how do they have access? We're like, well, anytime they want them, I'll give it to them. You know, I've been with this person. This is the person I'm talking to. I've been with this person a long time. They should know my numbers better than me. So I said, well, I'm going to just stop you right there and tell you we're not going any further until you really get something straight here, which is no one should know your numbers better than you. And my concern is that you're going to somehow expect me to know something more than you will know. All I'm going to know more than you is how the tax law could be, would be, should be applied to your transaction. And that would be the same as if you were just an ongoing business and not even one transaction. What your professional is there to do is know the aspect of what you've hired them to know and apply towards your numbers. So even if you have a big enough business and you have a CFO, right? Well, as the owner, you should still know the numbers better than them, in the sense of what are the key ingredients to this business and are those being put together properly? Now, someone may spend a lot of time generating and compiling the information. So I'm not talking about the bean counting part, as my grandfather would say. But you should have a better grasp than the CFO, if you're the owner, You should have a better grasp than everyone. And the more repetitious you are in looking at the numbers and asking questions, the more you're going to get familiar with the numbers. See, the other thing is, I don't know what the deal is, but with business owners, I'm one, okay? With business owners, we're superheroes, right? We're invincible, bulletproof, immortal, right? We're supposed to know everything. Yeah, for our business, we are. But the reason you hire people is to help you know everything. You don't just walk in and know everything. You have people to help you know everything. When you just hire somebody to know your numbers and you rely on that, they're never going to make the same decisions that you are as the owner or owners. They're not. It doesn't matter that you have someone and you pay them $250,000 a year and they rely on it. It's your best friend or it's your brother or whatever it is. Okay? And they're like, well, they should treat it like their own. Doesn't even matter that you gave them a percentage of the business. Doesn't even matter if they're the co-owner. You as an owner should be aware of your numbers more than anybody else. And what you have to realize is it's not swallowing your pride. It's not admitting you don't know something by saying to those that you are involving in your numbers, well, where'd that come from? Can I see the details on that? Okay, so we collected that last month. Where did it come from? And guess what? When you start asking questions and you like then the information that you're getting, which you'll know better what it is that you're needing to know, because if you're selling widgets or services, if you have 100 employees or multiple locations, you're going to get a better feel of what it is that you need to know. What is it that you need to know? Your numbers. How did that money come in? What is the time difference between when we sold it and when we collected it? And then the money that's going out the door, how close is that from when the money came in the door? So I got to pay an employee today to provide a service. So first of all, I just spent money in advance of the sale, and therefore I already know that from the sale and to the time of collecting on that sale, I am in a situation in this circumstances where the expenses are completely opposite from when the money is being collected. Ultimate would be I sell it, I collect it, and then I spend my money to provide it, right? Examples of that would be maybe in the medical profession, or let's say attorneys and they need retainers, or business owners that I've talked to. I talked to one business owner up in the Northeast and in the cosmetic business, and basically he said, here's how I got years ago is when you pay me, that's when I'm going to send you the product, period, the end. And then in essence, that's when he buys the product just in time inventory. He collects it, he buys it immediately, and then it goes out, so he's never upside down. Knowing your numbers. What customers do we have? What segment are they in? How many of the customers that we have buy from us routinely? What is routinely? Is it monthly? Is it quarterly? Right? There's a lot of information that's not necessarily what those you've hired to help you with your numbers are even going to think about that you would be thinking about. And if you're like, well, I don't have an accounting degree and I just want to focus in on my business and I just want to hire it out, well, then know this, you're going to probably have about 10 to 15 to 20 to 30% in waste, and you're not going to be as profitable. So if you want to go out, gotta remember, when I'm shooting these videos, and I've shot a lot tonight, I deserve to, get comfortable, especially I'm working a lot of hours right now. Let me adjust this a little bit. There we go. So I just need to rest my back. Haven't been able to chew on a cigar much today, been on the phone and getting a lot of stuff done. And so I'm just sharing some thoughts and ideas with you, just the same as if I was sitting here with you right here as a client. I'm not going to just sit here and entertain you the whole time, right? I'm going to be able to maybe ask you some questions, chew on a cigar while you answer. So since I don't have that opportunity, what are you thinking about right now? What are you contemplating right now? Hopefully, what you're contemplating is, well, what numbers do I need to be aware of? And then a million questions come to mind, and then that's how you're big time, is that you have people to help you find and solve your questions so that you're as profitable as can be. Why are you even in business? Right? Because, over the years, I've got a leather chair here, okay, that's making sounds. Man, see this? Got a leather chair here, me sucking my gut. Got this leather chair. So, for those of you that are like, man, the sound quality was excellent, except I kept hearing your leather chair. Let me ask you this. When you're sitting with somebody, you're sitting with them, and you're looking at them, do you say to them, hey, your leather chair is making some sounds. Can you sit a little more still while you're talking to me? Or could you sit in a different chair, please, because your chair is making sounds? I would hope not. Okay. See, I'll be honest with you. This is why the comments haven't been on lately. It's tax season, and I am to the nth degree trying to juggle a lot of things, pretty well overwhelmed with all of the opportunities, which is phenomenal, but overwhelmed right now just getting tax returns done and things to that effect. And so I'm a little extra punchy, which also means I'm a little extra sensitive. It's okay. Guess what? JJ the CPA is a human being. Okay? So where were we? What are you thinking about? What are you thinking about right now in the numbers? Write them down. Write them down. Oh, I'm too busy. I got to go work out. Oh, I just want to focus in on my business. Great. Focus in on the numbers as well. You got to build customer relations. You got to follow up. You're putting out fires. I get it. I have a series called Group 300. I'm going to revive it. But I did a daily video for a number of days that I put out last summer. I'll put a link to the playlist. And just remember, we were all at home at the time, and I wasn't seeing anybody other than the camera and Amanda and my kid for a while. But anyways, you'll find it entertaining if you haven't seen those videos. I even go in the backyard and stand on top of the waterfall of rocks and do a big yelp. It's called yelp if you want to see that one. But I talk with business owners, and I remember like when I first started, and people are like, listen, I just want to concentrate on being a chef. I'm opening this restaurant. I just really need to focus in on that. And I said, okay, sounds good. We'll help you with the numbers. And he had a partner that helped with the numbers. And the business went out of business within about 2 years. And there were phenomenal sandwiches out of this restaurant. It was just down the walkway from where I first started my practice. I had this little office that was literally like 6 feet by 4 feet, barely could get any kind of a desk, couldn't really have but one person sit in there, and we were about this close to each other, if not this close. But anyways, they brought me on and helped them get going, and long story short, because the primary owner wanted to focus in on being a chef and didn't want to focus in on the numbers, then focused in on the wrong things in terms of trying to make money. What they focused in on was, well, I got to have this product. I have to have this kind of milk. And that's all great, but then you're not matching up the pricing to substantiate or pay for that product to generate enough profit to then pay for all of the other expenses, not to mention paying themselves as owners. And so as time went on in my career, when I would hear something similar, it's like, listen, I'm to the point in my business where I just want to hire somebody. They worry about the numbers because I just want to worry about how to practice law, how to do surgery, how to drill in teeth, to be a veterinarian. I said, great, well, why don't you just go get a job somewhere then? Because then you can just focus in on doing just that. Go get a job. Well, why would I do that? I want to own the business. I want to make the money. I want to have the profit. And I said, yeah, guess what? You thinking you can hire somebody to just do all that for you while you focus in on the art of drilling teeth or the art of name it, you're not going to make as much money. So might as well just go be an employee. Might as well just go work for somebody else. Because if that's all you want to focus in on, well, that's what an employee does. It's not what an owner does. And, I'm in a unique business because I love being a CPA. I love preparing taxes. I love helping people, really. I love it. Following in the footsteps of my grandfather. But I'm also a business owner. And there, believe it or not, was a time period where I wasn't focusing in on the numbers the way that I should have, because I had somebody that was practicing alongside of me, growing this business, that was benefiting from the numbers, but didn't have the same type of experience. There were things that that person wasn't aware of. And even though that person had been with me for a long time, what we found is that we really needed to look at the numbers routinely and together to share in the experience. And it then ran better and smoother. And guess what? When we started really looking at the numbers, guess what we did? I chuckle, it's not funny, but what we realized is we had too many people working for us. And one of the reasons we weren't as profitable is we weren't collecting the money quick enough, or we weren't necessarily ensuring that everybody was working quick enough to then get it billed, to then get it collected, right? And you start now working a machine of 13 people and yada, yada, yada. You can have software and, CRM and, client relationship management and all that good stuff. Yeah, I get all that. But when we took our eye off the ball, because we were focusing in on so many different things and growing the business and, going from there's 3 of us to 13 of us, and we did that inside about 3 years, and you're bringing on more business and then more space. There's a lot of things to keep up with. But fundamentally, it's your numbers. And so there was a period of time, probably about maybe 9 months, where we took our eye off the ball. And we kind of got complacent, or we thought heck, we're accountants, we're CPA, I'm a CPA. Well, I know these numbers. I've been doing this forever. It's true. But the numbers changed because we were growing, right? More payroll, more rent, more everything that goes along with that. Yes, it was more clients. So I'm just telling you, I'm not even immune to it. But when I started looking at the numbers, what he and I started looking at was, are we even more profitable having all of these clients and all of these employees? So I'll tell you right now, I've got 3 others on my team. None of them are a CPA. I'm the sole CPA. I'm a sole proprietor. And as we let clients go. We let employees go at the same time, but then sent those clients with those employees. But we were getting rid of more costs than we were revenue, right? You get rid of $150,000 of revenue, but you shed $200,000 of payroll. You've come out ahead by $50K because it's about the bottom line. Okay, it's not about the top line. It's about the bottom line. But then how do you arrive at the bottom line? You know, in that 12-week group, every one of them near and dear to my heart, you know, part of what we talked about too is understanding not only the money that's coming in and how it's going out and the timing, but then what categories? What are the categories? Because all that money coming in, it goes in some category. Well, you don't have to necessarily have an accounting degree to know, well, that's rent, that's utilities, that's payroll taxes, that's revenue. Oh, that was a loan that we took. That's not revenue. You know, what's interesting too is for many business owners, the time that they are most interested in their numbers is when they're getting ready to launch, or they're getting ready to expand, or they're getting ready to bring on a partner. So I've got a client right now. I've been telling him for years he doesn't need to bring this employee on as a partner because they're an employee. They're not a partner. They didn't start the business. You're paying that employee a ton of money. The employee wants to become a partner. Why? Because they just want to make more money. They don't have any skills. They're not bringing anything to the table yet to be a partner. You got someone that's got 5 years of experience and you have 25 years of experience. That is not anybody bringing anything to the table. And if you have to make somebody an owner to keep them, then that's definitely not someone you want to be an owner, because an employee is an employee. An owner can't go anywhere. An owner is not an employee. Yes, an owner can pay themselves wages and technically be quote unquote an employee because they paid themselves wages, W-2, etc. But an owner doesn't go anywhere. An owner doesn't sit down with themselves and go, how much do you think I'm going to make? Because if I'm not going to make what I think I'm going to make, then I guess I'm going to have to go somewhere else. Anyways, told him here recently, I said, listen, you know, here's the thing. You're now as interested in the numbers back when you bought this practice in 2001. So I've been practicing a long time and then bought this, or practicing for a number of years, and then bought the practice that he has now. And I said, you were so interested in your numbers, meaning the numbers of the practice you were buying before you bought it. You were interested in the beginning, but I said, I have to pull your teeth to meet with me and to go through your numbers with you. And we now have a routine and we go through it, but I still have to slap you upside your head to keep you interested in your numbers. But now that you're bringing in somebody else, you're interested in your numbers all over again, but in a different way. So what I want us to do is, now that you're interested in your numbers the way that you should be, let's really look at these numbers and make sure, do you even want to bring on a partner? Do you need to bring on a partner? Do they need to buy in? But many business owners think that's the only time they need to be interested in their numbers, when they're getting ready to sell or bring somebody on, or when they're going to expand. Are you really only going to be interested before anything happens? And part of what I had indicated to this person is, I mean, you are wildly successful. You're making money hand over fist. You got a ton of money in the bank. So it's easy to be complacent and not worry as much about, quote unquote, your numbers, because you're sloshing in it, right? You jump out of bed and it just falls right out of the bed with you, as in cash, because of the kind of business you're in. But part of what's been looked at then is what I just told you in the beginning. I said, well, the first thing we need to look at is, reevaluate your timing of when a service is provided to when it's collected. And same thing for this employee. And then when is it that you're expending the dollars to generate the money that's coming in? And they already knew that I wasn't going to know that stuff. Why would I know that stuff? I mean, I'm doing their taxes. I'm looking at their numbers. I'm looking at their general ledger. How in the world would I know that? And that client already knows that I'm not going to know that, because when I first talked with this client, I was trying out for the show The Apprentice Season 2. And I got to top 100. It was almost on The Apprentice. And I remember the discussion I had with him, because I put it as part of my interview process with The Apprentice. Obviously, no names involved. But here's a story of a client and talking through when they're interested in their numbers. And when you're interested in your numbers, then you make a good decision. This client made a phenomenal, excellent decision buying this practice. Bought into a practice that then they can generate money hand over fist. Gets easy to not want to pay attention to the numbers. This person has somebody working internally that's great. It's been with him almost from the very beginning. Phenomenal. Trustworthy. Does a great job. Clean. I now really only have to look at the books, a couple times a year, quarterly. It's always pretty clean. Things are in the right categories. But if you don't know your numbers, you don't know your business. It's not big time to hire someone to know your numbers without you also knowing them. What's big time is you hire somebody to help you know your numbers. No one's going to care about your business the way that you do. I don't care who they are. No offense, okay? No offense. You've been watching my videos for long. You probably could almost guess what's coming, okay? Unless your spouse, loved one, partner, whatever you want to call the person that you're sharing your life with, okay? Unless they're inside that business every day with you, they don't know your numbers, and they don't care about those numbers the way that you care about them. They don't. I don't care what you think or what you say, because running a business is not about having a loving relationship. Running a business is about numbers. It's about knowing the business and the numbers. It's not about laying in bed, pillow talking about numbers. Typically, the spouse, partner in your life personally is interested in your success. So hear me on this. They're interested in your success. They're interested in protecting you. They're also interested in, well, how much money then is coming out of the business. So they are not selfish in a bad way. They're being selfish for your benefit, for their benefit, right? I mean, that's kind of the role that you would hope they would have, right? Pillow talk should be, why the hell are you working this hard? You need to raise your rates. Not, why the hell are you working this hard? You should quit. You should fire that person. It should be, why are you working this hard? You're not bringing home enough money. Maybe you need to raise your rates. But why are you even having that discussion, first of all? What is the point of that? There is no point of it unless that spouse or that partner is in the business every day with you, okay? Well, I want to share everything with, seems like it's not right to not share. That doesn't even make any sense. Okay, then share the information. What I'm saying is that doesn't make you know your numbers. Having a spouse or a partner looking at your numbers with you doesn't make you know the numbers. I have a number of clients that either when they came with me or came to me or when they grew, they're like, oh, well, I'm going to have my spouse, my partner, they're going to run the books for me. Like, okay, well, what's their background? Well, I mean, they need something to do. Oh, okay, so they need something to do? So you're going to have them run your numbers? For what? You can't hire someone to run your numbers? Huh? You need your other person to hold your hand with you? Why? Well, I just want to focus in on the business. Great. Then go be an employee. Meaning, I just want to focus in on being a lawyer or a dentist. I don't want to have to focus in on doing all the numbers. I don't want to have to focus in on doing the administration. Oh, okay. So you need a secretary, need a bookkeeper, and for whatever reason, you're going to hire your spouse to do that. What's the point of that? Well, I can save money. I don't have to pay somebody else to do it. Gives them something to do. It doesn't work out. It doesn't work out. Have respect for your spouse or partner, and spouses and partners have respect for your spouse or partner that's the business owner, and let them run the business and be there to support them. Be there to support what comes out of the business. Because I'm telling you, it just doesn't work unless you're partners and you work inside the business. Well, we've been married for 30 years and run every decision, whatever. Okay, so you've worked out a system. How's that working for you? Right? How's that working for you? How's it working for your business? Oh, it's working great. Okay, well, do you know your numbers? Do you as the owner know your numbers? Because just jobbing it out to your spouse or your loved one or your partner doesn't make you know the numbers. Well, we're partners, what they know, I know. No, that you don't share a brain. You don't share a brain. And typically, the spouse or the partner that you put in charge of the money is there to do what? Protect you and the family. Well, that sounds like a really good thing. No, it doesn't. Because those don't lead to the best business decisions. What it leads to is technically or typically terrible decisions. Well, you're paying that person too much. Or we don't need to give raises. We need to find a cheaper distributor. They got to understand how the business runs. You're the only one that's going to know that. Unless that spouse is in your business all the time with you, like a real partner in a business. Like a real partner in the business, not a partner in life. A partner in life, spouse, married, partner, whatever, okay? That is not the same as being a business partner. And to confuse the two is asinine. It's ridiculous. And the reason I say that is a protection for your spouse, for your loved one, for your relationship. Well, we're partners in everything we do. Great. Then that person better be involved in the business all the time, not from the kitchen table only. Not once a week stopping by. They need to know who the customers are. They need to know who the vendors are. The employees need to see them as an owner, not the owner's spouse. You don't bring a spouse in to save payroll. Have some respect for your spouse. You brought on a spouse to be an employee? Hey, let's go ahead and get married because that's going to save me some payroll. That's really what you're saying. Repeat after me. Okay, you guys are getting married. Okay, in sickness and in health, and when you need an employee, I'll work for you. Wrong. And then the spouses that come on, they're like, well, I thought I was going to be involved in the business. Oh, you thought that we were going to get married and you were going to be an employee? That's what you wanted? You wanted to be married to me and you wanted to be my employee? How disrespectful is that? Both ways. And the reason I'm going into it is that confuses or fools the owner thinking they know their numbers because they have their life partner, spouse, whatever, involved in the business with them, unless they are literally involved in the business. So hopefully what you're hearing is if you have a spouse and you're both running the business, then this wouldn't apply to you in the sense that, well, then heck, both of you need to know the numbers. Both need to know the numbers, just the same as any other owner should know the numbers. Biggest mistake is you think you can hire out someone knowing your numbers. Biggest mistake is, well, I'm married into someone will know the numbers for me. Well, I trust them. This doesn't have anything to do with trust. It's about knowing your numbers. Who knows the numbers? The one that owns the business. How do you know your numbers? The people around you help you know the numbers. What are you trying to really achieve here? Making money. Not collecting and spending, but making as in netting. That's the goal here. So if you want to own a business, then you better be ready to know your numbers. And if your business is failing, it's most likely not because you don't have customers. It's not because you don't have employees that are doing their job. It's not because of your vendor. It's not because of your location. Most of the time when a business is failing, it's because the owners don't know their numbers. Because a business owner that doesn't know their numbers doesn't know when it's time to fire somebody or when it's time to hire somebody. A business owner that doesn't know their numbers doesn't know it's time to stop selling that because we're not even collecting on it, or we're not collecting fast enough on it, or we're selling a heck of a lot of that, but it's sure costing us more than what we're selling it for, so we're actually losing money every time we sell something. A business owner that doesn't know the timing from when something is sold to when it's collected to when the money has to be spent to then cover the costs of generating that revenue, that most likely is why a business is failing. It's not, well, we didn't advertise right. Now, these could be some of the things that are actually symptoms of not knowing your numbers. We didn't advertise right. Well, it's probably because you advertised too much in the wrong area, meaning you spent too much money. Well, we just didn't have the right employees. You're right, because you either had too many or you didn't have them lined up properly, or you had too many of one and not the other because you didn't know your numbers. We got surprised by taxes. Well, it's because you didn't know your numbers. It's not because your accountant didn't tell you. Your accountant probably didn't tell you because you didn't ask him to tell you, or your accountant didn't tell you because your numbers are a mess and the accountant wouldn't know. Stop blaming everybody else for something not going right with your business because you're the owner of it. You want to be in the business of blaming other people, then shut the doors and go be an employee so that you can join in with all the other employees and blame everybody else. Know your numbers, you know your business, you know your profitability. It's not about the top line, it's about the bottom line. What's your top line? Better know it. What's your bottom line? Better know it. How do you get to that bottom line? What's running through your business? You know the details, then you're going to know your business. You know, people want to look at the P&L, they want to look at the balance sheet, right? Revenue and expense. You know, what are my assets and my liabilities? Yes, the most important report you should be looking at is something called the general ledger, because the general ledger shows you all the details of what goes into a P&L, shows you all the details of what goes in a balance sheet. The best way for you to know your numbers is to look at a general ledger. So when you're looking at a P&L and it says we've spent $65,000 on rent, all you know is that somebody classified something as rent and it showed up as rent and it's an expense. What you want to do is look at the general ledger to see what was spent to arrive at that figure that was called rent on a P&L. Well, I hired a professional. They should know what rent is. Guess what? When you look at rent, you might be like, oh, I didn't know we were still paying for storage. What are we paying for that storage for? So it's not a matter of why I hired somebody, they should know how to code something to rent. Well, they did code it to rent. It's an expense you didn't know you were spending on. Well, it's all travel. Well, we travel a lot. Well, what went into travel? Well, airfare and hotel and meals and car rentals. Okay, great. Let's take a look at it. Oh, wow. Well, how come we spent that much to fly there? And what kind of car are we renting? How much did we spend on that trip? Know your numbers. Go to your general ledger. Figure it out. Well, I don't got time for all that. Then go be an employee. Shut the doors and go be an employee. Why are you a business owner? I'll tell you why you're a business owner, most likely. Because you don't want to work for anybody else. But you know the difference between a business owner and an employee? Somebody that knows their numbers about the business. That's the difference. The other big difference is you live off the profit. Okay? An employee does not. So even if you hire an employee to worry about your net, well, it's not their net. Even if you have a CFO, well, it's not their net. You have a CPA and an EA or a tax professional and go down the list. It's not their net. It's your net. So all these people should help you know that number. And if you don't know where to start, what you can say is, hey, so we netted 15,000. How do we do that? We brought in 50, and we spent 35. That's how we netted 15. Okay, where'd the 50 come from? Customers. What customers? The ones we sell to. What are we selling them? Where are they from? How long did it take to pitch them and then sell it? And then when did we collect it? What's our average business size? What's our average sale? What kind of products are we selling? What kind of services are we selling? What services bring in the most revenue? What customers are not paying us on time? Why are we still selling to those customers? Okay, so we brought in the 50. There's a bunch of questions, and someone can go find all those answers out for you. And as a business owner, you're like, what? We're still selling to that person? Well, I'll give that person a call and just say, hey, listen, if we're going to continue, you're going to have to pay us quicker. Or no. That went out a long time ago. There's no way. You see what I'm saying? Right? And then keeping involved in that information, you're going to know your numbers. So you can sit back big time, right? Because as a business owner, you want to sit back, right? Be big time. Right? Sit here like the Godfather. Right? You don't even have to lift a finger. You say, well, okay, so that's where the 50 came in. Where'd the 35 go? On expenses. What expenses? On the expenses that we spend every month. What are the expenses that we spend every month? Well, we got to pay this much and that much in payroll and rent. Well, how much are we paying in rent? Most business owners, if I say, hey, what's your rent? Probably wouldn't be able to tell me. My business, my clients, they know. Because we look at that general ledger. They know. Okay? Know your numbers. The people around you are there to help you know the numbers. Ask questions. And guaranteed, no one is going to look at that business owner and go, well, you don't know where that revenue came from? And you can say, well, you don't know? What am I hiring you for? I need you to tell me where the numbers came from. What do you mean we're spending that much in parking? Brought on a client. There's this big law firm. And one of the partners didn't want to switch to me. He was an older partner. Didn't want to switch to me. I was young back at this time. And didn't want to switch to me. Like, what's this guy? Look at this. Look at he's wearing this suit and that. He's going to be expensive, and that silk tie and that silk pocket square. Literally, this is what I'm being told. You charge how much, blah, 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 and it's not. First meeting, first minute. I said, hey, before we get into the P&L, let's look at the general ledger. What's that? What's the detail of your expenses? Oh, first minute, boom, we're looking at something that's never been looked at ever, always been there and available. By the way, they had an internal CPA doing their books and their numbers. And I heard a big speech before we sat down and looked at the general ledger. Well, we've had this person for a long time and they're a CPA and I trust that person with my life. Great. Well, I just don't understand why we need to look at these numbers. I was like, well, we need to look at it for tax planning. Let's take a look at it. Well, it's just whatever the net is, that's what we're going to have to pay tax on. Okay, well, that's great, but let's know what the net is and where it came from. So anyways, first meeting, first minute, we're looking at a general ledger. Wow, okay. I don't know, we're 15 minutes in. So I just said, all right, so here's the general ledger. And I just was like, here's the detail. And I said, so now we're going to go through the P&L and the balance sheet. But all the numbers we're going to see on the P&L and the balance sheet, we're going to see the detail of it in the general ledger. So now that we have the general ledger, just getting you familiar with it and how it works and the order that it is in, because it's in the same order as the financials. Now, if we have any questions, we can go right to the general ledger. Right off the bat, we're looking at the P&L, right? So we've gone through the general ledger. We're looking at the P&L. Couldn't have even been a minute of looking at the P&L, and this person says, we're spending how much on parking? Where does that parking come from? I said, well, let's just look at the general ledger. We look at it, and he's like, I had no idea that we were spending $12,000 on all this parking. Like, what is this for? And they start looking, they're looking through the detail, and the CPA's running and getting the invoices to even look and blah, 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 blah. So the next question was, well, how long have we been paying this? See what I'm saying? So your general ledger. And part of what I then in that meeting and gained the respect of that partner who then later came back and said, I've never met a CPA quite like you, before anybody said that. Said something like that. But it was understanding and knowing the numbers which helped that business be more profitable. It didn't have anything to do that they had a CPA internally. That CPA is phenomenal. Perfection CPA. All the numbers, tick, tie, boom, yep. But it's not the CPA internally's job to determine if rent or parking is reasonable or if that's what needs to be spent. So changed then the trajectory of that law firm forever by knowing the numbers. Man, I've enjoyed visiting with you. Got this dry. This is pretty cool. This is a steel ball. It's cold. You put it in your freezer. You just wet it. It doesn't soak up water or nothing, but you wet it. Put it in the freezer. And then when you're having a drink, even if it's a Coke, you don't have ice melting into your drink, but it remains cold. And I'll tell you a little funny story. Okay, it was Amanda that found these. There was a period of time, probably a year before you all met me. So back in 18 and 19. Anyways, my refrigerator stopped making ice. Just wasn't able to do it. And I was in a period of time where I didn't have the money to fix it or get a new refrigerator. And Didn't have any ice cubes. Okay, I know you can have the trays from 1974 and fill them with water and put them into your freezer, but I don't have the kind of freezer that does that. It's just a drawer that comes in and out. Anyways, this was a solution in terms of keeping drinks cold because it didn't require ice. Kind of an irrelevant story. But if you made it to here, you're part of the family. And if you made it to here and you're not a subscriber, I'd love it if you'd subscribe. All right. Well, hey, enjoyed visiting with you. And kind of irrelevant because you can be watching this at any time and could be watching it a year from now, but it's about 10:30 at night. And I got to get back to work. I just shot 6 videos before this that we got to get up. A lot of good information coming out. But I enjoyed doing this. Probably, I bet I get 1,200 views on this video, which just means I did it for you. Not a YouTuber. YouTubers do videos only for views. This one, I guarantee, will get about 1,200 views. Why? Because those that are interested in knowing their numbers truly are far and few between. And that's you. So thanks for sticking around. Hopefully it was minorly entertaining in some regards, some good stories. But at the end of the day, don't make the mistake of not knowing your numbers. Because if you know your numbers, you know your business, right? Go watch CNBC, The Profit, P-R-O-F-I-T, The Profit, Mark Lumanis, something like that. Anyways, that's irrelevant. Go check out The Profit on CNBC. I don't know that he coined it, but I'll give him credit for if you don't know your numbers, you don't know your business. All right, hey, thanks for tuning in. I'd love it if you'd subscribe. And then don't you ever forget, you've never met a CPA quite like me.